Have you ever wanted to understand how some people come out stronger after trauma? What helps someone bounce back after loss and pain? How is it that some people find the strength to turn their lives into something meaningful after losing everything? What helps a person grow through the darkest season of their life and come out more resilient, more compassionate, even more capable than before? If even one of these questions feels familiar, this video is for you. Some of the strongest, most alive people history has ever recorded were often the ones still standing in the very middle of losing everything or going through major life's trials. That's true everywhere, in every era. Right now, we're watching it happen in real time in Ukraine, on the battlefield, in the cities, and also among women who are still today in the middle of losing everything, yet who continue to raise children, care for the elderly, volunteer, work, serve, wear vyshivanka, Ukrainian embroidery, and build what they can to support life around them. Not after the war, not once it's over, right now. Today we want to talk about something that sounds almost impossible, growth in the middle of a story, or better say in the middle of a storm that hasn't ended yet. Stay with us, because by the end we think you may recognize this in your life too, and maybe even reconnect with your own inner strength and hidden resources. My name is Maria Vinnitska. I'm a psychologist, co-founder of Ukrainian Psychology Center The Soul, and program director of Psychology Clinic Renavari in Singapore. I also serve on the board of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. And this is the final video in our Circles of Compassion series made together with the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation for her 100th birthday to honor Elisabeth's life, work, and legacy. If you've watched the previous videos, you already know about the 4 quadrants of healing, the 5 stages of grief, the change curve, and why storytelling and being witnessed is medicine for the soul. We won't revisit those today. Today we go somewhere where those videos were quietly preparing us for. What comes after the grieving, the trauma, or the loss? And what are our options? Here's the map for today. First, we'll look at the phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. What is it? And why we dare use that word while our war is still going on, and how it applies just as much to you or to anyone living in peace yet moving through their own deep struggles. Second, we'll look at 5 real areas of post-traumatic growth, with a personal invitation in every single one to look at your own life. Third, we'll explore an uncomfortable but very real paradox: how a person can be planning a wedding, falling in love, booking tickets for the theater, and hearing a 10-hour air raid siren in the same afternoon, surrounded by death, explosions, and devastation. And finally, a question Elisabeth's son, Ken Ross, gave us, one we think we will stay with you long after this video ends. We'd like to open with Elisabeth's own words, because we couldn't say this better than she already did. One of her last books was called Death, the Final Stage of Growth. Sit with that for a moment. If dying, the hardest thing any of us will do, can be a stage of growth, then surviving catastrophic loss perhaps can be too. Let's define it honestly. Post-traumatic growth is not the absence of pain. It is not getting over it. It is real, structural change a person moves through because of the struggle, in how we relate to others, in what we believe we're capable of, in what we can now see as possible, in how deeply we notice being alive. And we need to be exact about what this is not, because we refuse to make any of this sound easy. Post-traumatic growth does not mean trauma is good. It does not mean anyone needed to suffer in order to grow. Some losses are simply irreversible. A mother does not get her son back. A city does not get its old skyline back. We will never say the war was worth it for what it taught us. What we can honestly ask is something smaller and much harder, given what has already happened and cannot be undone. What, if anything, can we still do with this? Also, let's be clear that this is not resilience, and the difference matters. Resilience is the capacity to bend without breaking, to return to who we were before the crisis, trauma, or shock. It's precious and can be life-saving, but resilience can be a return to your previous way of being. Post-traumatic growth is a becoming. It's not going back to who we were. It's discovering who we are turning into, because the old version of us could not survive what happened, or had no future, or it's no longer available, and something else had to take its place. Resilience is our psychological immune system. It gives us the crucial, immediate power to withstand life's heavy blows, to bend under extreme stress, and to return largely whole to who we were before. Post-traumatic growth is something different. It's a transformation. It doesn't just return us to a baseline. It evolves us into a new version of ourselves. It means rebuilding, changing our core identity, values, and finding new meaning, specifically because our old self could not survive the circumstances. Before we go further, let's name something plainly. Trauma isn't one thing. It can be a single sudden shock, an accident, an assault, a diagnosis. It can be prolonged and ongoing, years of conflict, illness, abuse, neglect, or fear. It can be collective, something an entire community or nation carries together. And it can be quieter and individual, but no less real. A divorce, a job lost, a betrayal, a childhood that never quite felt safe. None of this needs to be compared or ranked against each other. Everything we are describing today is deeply relevant to Ukraine right now, but it's just as relevant if you've never lived through a war at all. Trauma doesn't check your passport first. It's just a universal human experience, so we can all relate to it in one way or another. None of this is a hopeful guess. Psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun studied survivors of the most devastating experiences life can offer and found that genuine growth was not rare. It was common, especially when the right conditions were present. Creating those conditions is exactly the work we do every day at the soul. We would like to name something with real gratitude here. We first encountered this concept through Dr. Katie Eastman, the soul's clinical advisor and mentor since the earliest days of the full-scale invasion. Dr. Katie introduced us to the post-traumatic growth approach and helped us integrate it into our programs. She serves on the advisory board of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, and she is the author of uplifting, inspiring stories of loss, change, and growth, and co-author of a beautiful book with Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino, The Peace Guidebook, How to Cultivate Hope, Healing, and Harmony for the Good of Humankind. These are wonderful books. Treat yourself if you're interested in healing and inner peace. Here's the honest complication, and we want to name it directly instead of quietly avoiding it. The word is post-traumatic. Post means after, and our war is not after. It is still happening right now as we record this. So why do we use this word at all? Because we've learned over 4.5 years of this work that growth doesn't wait politely for a war to end before it begins. It starts in the middle of the fire. We first used this framework in 2023 in our very first Ukrainian Circle program, after we ran crisis center and group sessions for many months. That means we've now been living with, testing, and refining this approach for over 4 years. And every single year, we understand it a little differently. In year 1, it felt almost audacious to even speak of growth. Today, we've watched it happen again and again in front of us. We saw the growth and positive change in different areas of life. And that's why our program, Ukrainian Circle, usually has a modular theme-based structure, helping women see the changes in key domains of life, like self-esteem, healing trauma, emotional regulation, the well-being of a physical body, relationships, the ability to make decisions, plan the future, grow at work, and be financially strong. And here's the idea we want to underline more than any other today. Elisabeth once wrote about the people she came to admire most, the ones who had known real defeat, real suffering, real loss, and had found their way out of the depths. Not despite the struggle, through it. And we don't offer that as a reward for pain, as if suffering earns you beauty. We offer it because it is the truest description we know of the Ukrainian women we sit with every week and see how they continue to love, to serve, to work, to hope, and to live despite everything. Before we walk through where growth actually happens, we want to offer you one simple lens. And we'll try to draw it visually for you. Think of 3 circles of change. The innermost circle is the self. Everything starts from it. It's you, your mind, your physical body, your soul, and your spirit. The middle circle is our relationships, people around us, people around you. And the outer circle is the existential, what we believe, what we hold sacred. It's our deepest connection to life and how we make sense of it. Please keep this lens in your back pocket. You'll recognize it quietly underneath everything we'll share next. There is another way to visualize it, and basically what's the most important here is this. There is you, then there is your relationships with yourself, your relationships with others, and your relationships with life. Now let's look at the actual map. Researchers have identified 5 specific areas where post-traumatic growth shows up. We'll draw this out for you as a map. This is area 1, this is area 2, and so on. But please remember, there is no order here. No hierarchy, no sequence you're supposed to follow. Some of us will recognize change in all five, some in just one or two. Both are complete, both are real. This is an individual journey of healing, change, and transformation. It's never a checklist. So let's dive deeper into every area. Area one is personal strength. This is discovering a capacity in yourself you didn't know existed because you never needed it before. In our own work at the soul, we meet women who managed entire households, kept children in schools, held extended families together while their own city was under fire or they were on the move, and who are still quietly astonished by their own strength. As part of our research this year, we asked our community 10 questions for each area of post-traumatic growth. For your personal reflections, we will share with you some of them, and we will share some testimonies from the women we serve. So 2 questions related to personal strength that are worth sitting with. When you had a crisis or a loss in your life, when did you discover a strength you didn't know you had? And what helped you find it? What resource, what person, what small ritual gave you something to stand on? We'd love to hear your answer in the comments. Please share your story. It can also encourage others. So we asked our community, when did you discover a strength you didn't know you had? And here is some of what they told us. I never thought I'd be able to get up every morning when my body felt exhausted to move and too tired, and still I would go to serve at church. It's such a small thing, but it's what gave me the strength to keep going. At 49, in the middle of everything that was going on and changed my profession, I realized I'm capable of so much more than I ever gave myself credit for. Someone wrote for me, it was something as simple as learning to knit. That's what gave me something to hold on to. I didn't know I would be able to have plans for the future still and give birth to a child in the middle of the war. Sometimes the strength isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's a small ritual, a decision, an uplifting thought repeated that becomes the thing you stand on. Area 2 is relating to others. This is our circle of relationships. It's a closeness, depth, or connection that did not exist before the crisis. People who were in the fire with us become family in a way that years of comfortable friendship rarely produce. It's also our ability to reach out, ask for help, receive it, and offer to others. Questions worth asking yourself here. When you were going through a crisis, who showed up for you in a way you didn't expect? And has your own capacity to receive help, not just give it, changed at all? Here is what our community shared about relationships and how they shifted for them. I've become more selective. I understand now how much relationships affect me, so I have far less patience for the ones that drain rather than nourish. What I value most now isn't the excitement of romance or friendship, it's reliability. Can I count on this person? That question matters more than it ever did. Someone wrote, people will do what they believe is right for them, not what I want them to do. I've learned that, but I still don't want to lose my faith in people. They just matter too much. Wherever you are in the world, you probably know this feeling too. Crisis has a way of showing you exactly who and what is real. Area 3 of post-traumatic growth is new possibilities. This is a path opening only because an old path has closed. In our own community, we've watched women who came to the Ukrainian circle in the middle of their own struggles, and eventually they became trainers and facilitators. In the middle of trauma, losses, or becoming a refugee, we saw people changing careers, starting new businesses, trying new roles, and developing new skills. Good questions to sit with if you apply it to your own life. Has anything opened for you that would never have existed without this hard chapter? And when you imagine the new possibility, what did it take? Courage, permission, a person who believed in you first. What did it take to step into it, to receive it, to embrace it? This is what new possibilities looked like for the women in our communities. There was no time left to rehearse, no time to wait. I just had to try, and I tried many new things and different roles. No more waiting. I didn't discover a completely new life. I became someone new inside the life I already had. Better boundaries, more clarity, and more courage. In the middle of new things, I needed to stay connected to my roots and culture. Through cooking borscht or using embroidery, that felt like a new possibility too. The possibility of still belonging to who I am and who I used to be, being far away from home. New doesn't always mean a different life. Sometimes it means becoming a different person inside the one that you already have. Area 4 is appreciation of life. This is the ordinary becoming precious. A cup of tea, a quiet morning, a child's laughter in a home still standing. Your ability to walk, see, think clearly, and even do the basic things. Questions to reflect on here. What is one small, ordinary moment that has become precious to you because of the struggles you've experienced, that you may have walked past before? And has your relationship with time and life itself changed? Do you feel more urgency now to actually live it? Do you feel more grateful for what you have? Here is what our community told us about what became precious. Everything became sharper, both the pain, the joy, and the beauty. There is a new depth to my days now. I discovered nature as a sacred source of strength. Sunrises, sunsets, the smell of the earth after rain, the simple ability to walk somewhere, all of it became a way back to myself. This is all so precious. Every day has become a gift. I try not to take it for granted. This is one of the quietest forms of growth and one of the most universal. It doesn't ask you to survive a war to notice it, but it will change your own experience of life dramatically. And area 5, the last one, is spiritual change. This is a different relationship with meaning, with faith, with what we believe we're here for. It's a profound transformation of what you hold sacred and your relationships with the divine. Questions worth carrying with you after loss or trauma. Have your deepest beliefs shifted about faith, about purpose, about what really matters? And where do you now turn in the hardest moments for a sense of something larger than yourself? This was for many the hardest question to answer, and we want to honor that honesty. People said, honestly, I'm losing my faith. This question found me in one of my hardest moments. My faith did not remove my responsibility to act, it deepened it. Believing in something bigger doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It's become important to me just to keep supporting others. That too is a form of spiritual strength. I've experienced a new connection of faith and God, but there are still many big questions, and I don't understand why there is so much suffering and pain. There's no single right answer here. For some, faith deepened. For others, it's been shaken or it's still being questioned. Both are part of this area of growth. And for some of us at the soul, this has taken a very concrete shape. It's also part of why we started Pray for Ukraine, a quarterly gathering where people come together, regardless of denomination, simply to hold space for something larger than any one of us. You're welcome to join us if it appeals to you. You can scan the QR code on the screen and be with us at the next session. And if faith or spirituality isn't part of your own language, that's all right too. The underlying question here is the same for everyone. What do you turn to when nothing else feels steady? Wherever you landed across these 5 areas, 1, 3, all 5, or none yet, that is exactly where you're supposed to be. Personal strength, new possibilities, relating to others, appreciating of life, spiritual change. There is no finish line here and no wrong answer. It's just a framework that helped our women and our team in the healing journey, and we hope it can be of service to you too. We would genuinely love for you to share in the comments which of these 5 areas resonated with you most, and what resource helped carry you there. Elisabeth spent her life beside the dying, and she noticed something remarkable. Proximity to death has a strange way of clarifying exactly what matters. We see this constantly in Ukraine. So many people have revisited their values completely. Many say they carry less fear, not because the danger is smaller, but because they've stopped treating life as a rehearsal. There is something about Ukraine right now that can be hard to hold from a distance. There can be a 7-hour air raid siren shelling somewhere in the same district where you live, and that same evening, women put on their most beautiful dresses and go to the theater. People still buy flowers from the grandmother selling them by the metro station. They still book concert tickets. They still plan the renovation of a balcony, although it could be destroyed tomorrow by a Shahed drone or a missile. This is not denial. This is one of the most striking things we have ever witnessed. The fierce, deliberate choice to stay connected to life precisely because death is so close. And we want to be honest that there are 2 very different reactions to this. Some people ask, how can anyone be possibly happy, be joyful, be celebrating when there is so much grief around us? Others ask the opposite. How can we not celebrate life when so many people paid such an enormous price so the rest of us could still be here? We don't believe there is a right answer. It depends entirely on what each person has lived through, what they have lost, and where they are in their own journey. Both responses deserve to be heard without judgment. What we see underneath both of these reactions is the same deeper hunger, a search for meaning, for purpose, for your own honest sources of happiness and authentic life. Viktor Frankl, writing in the same era as Elisabeth, described exactly this: the search for meaning as the thing that lets people survive the unsurvivable. This search doesn't erase grief. It exists right alongside it, and it is deeply, unavoidably personal. In The Tunnel and the Light, Elisabeth described what she called unfinished business. Grief, guilt, and longing a person suppresses and carries until it is finally allowed to be spoken. In her hospice work, this was almost always individual or familiar. One person or one family, one story, one set of things left unsaid within it. We want to extend that concept because Ukraine is living through unfinished business on a scale Elisabeth described for individuals. Millions didn't get to say goodbye. Homes were left mid-morning, breakfast still on the table, Christmas with the empty family chairs. Post-traumatic growth here becomes the work of an entire people, learning to carry what's unresolved while still building a future and fighting for its freedom. Here is something worth naming clearly. This is not finished. Our trauma is ongoing. It is not something Ukrainians are recovering from in the past tense. It is something being lived daily in the present tense by people who are simultaneously trying to grow. That combination, active crisis and trauma and active growth at the same time, is unusual. And it's exactly what we hope the rest of the world can come to understand about us. One more thing that has shifted for us quietly, and we want to name it. It's the experience of time itself. Before the war, time moved in a fairly ordinary way. Years, plans, milestones. Now, for many Ukrainians, a single day can feel like a year. And yet 3 years can also feel like they passed in a blur. We'd love to explore this shift more visually with you, this shift in time. And for now, simply notice. If your own sense of time has felt strange or distorted during a hard chapter of your life, just know you're not imagining it. There is a Japanese art form called Kintsugi, repairing broken pottery, not by hiding the cracks, but by filling it with gold. The break isn't disguised. It becomes the most beautiful, most valuable part of the object. Something that has been broken and mended is not worth less. It is often worth more because its history is now visible and honored rather than hidden. We think this is one of the truest images we have for post-traumatic growth. We're not asking anyone to hide their cracks or pretend the break never happened. We're asking something much more honest. What if the gold in the seams doesn't cover the break, but becomes part of who you now visibly are, not despite being broken, but because of how you were mended? You can see here the healing stage, a Ukrainian project helping war veterans recover through theater, and we think it's a beautiful illustration of the concept we just described. Events at this scale don't just happen to us, they rewrite us. Who am I if the country I knew no longer exists in the same form? If my town is a ghost town now? Who am I if the career, the home, the daily rhythm I built my identity around is gone? Who am I if my loved ones are gone? This is not a side effect of trauma. This is identity work in the fullest sense, and it is some of the deepest work we do together at the soul. And this is exactly where the 5 areas of growth and identity meet. New possibilities aren't just new activities. They are daily quiet answers to who am I now? Deeper relationships reshape who we understand ourselves to be in relation to others and in our own eyes. Spiritual change reshapes what we believe we're here for. Post-traumatic growth, seen this way, isn't 5 separate skills. It's one ongoing act of becoming someone new. Elisabeth taught that family and community are healing units, not just the individual. And research on post-traumatic growth confirms this decades later. Growth rarely happens in isolation. It happens in being witnessed, seen, heard, and held by others. This is also why one of our own core principles at the soul is the ripple effects of care. A woman who heals doesn't heal alone. Her healing moves outward into her marriage, her children, her whole community. At the soul, this is why our group work and our systemic constellation sessions matter as much as any individual conversation. In a constellation or group setting, a woman doesn't just tell her story. She sees it, held physically by others in the room, witnessed in a way words alone rarely achieve. And it also has a transgenerational healing impact because suffering shared and pain witnessed and acknowledged becomes smaller and will have fewer chances to be transmitted further. And the children see that no matter what, their parents are still standing and fighting for freedom, for life, and their future. Our Telegram community now holds over 580 members, women in Ukraine and scattered across the world, showing up for each other in real time. This is not a nice feature of our work. It is a survival infrastructure and ecosystem. It is where the longing for connection, for being witnessed, for simply doing life together finds actual home. We have many testimonials from our participants in messages, in videos, and they are truly very precious for us to see someone's life being changed, transformed, touched, to know that someone's heart received even a little bit of light, love, hope, and support. And this is where Circles of Compassion, the name of this entire series, finds its fullest meaning. Not just a phrase or a title for the video. A literal growth and nurturing mechanism. Compassion witnessed and returned inside a circle of other people is one of the most reliable conditions for post-traumatic growth that we know of. We want to say something honest about the therapeutic side of this work, because it deserves to be said out loud. Post-traumatic growth done well benefits enormously from having someone journey alongside you. But for Ukraine, this is genuinely difficult for two specific reasons. First, the trauma isn't over, so there is no clean after to process from. And second, Ukrainian therapists are living through the same war as their clients. Those of us inside Ukraine face the same arid sirens, the same existential threat, the same daily uncertainty as the women we sit with. Those of us outside Ukraine often carry our own version of displacement and loss. This is vicarious trauma, but it's also something more direct. Shared trauma held by the very people meant to be steady. This is exactly where the wider circle around us has mattered so much. Picture 3 circles of compassionate support, and not to be confused with the 3 circles of change we spoke about earlier. The innermost circle is the people we serve, Ukrainian women navigating this war. The middle circle is the soul team itself. And the outer circle is the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, a community outside our own trauma circle, holding space for us the way we hold space for others. Every helper needs a circle wider than their own wound. Every helper needs a circle wider than their own wound. For us, EKRF has been part of that circle. And for me, this is also something personal. Caring for those who care for others and passion for healing became both a professional interest and a daily reality, one that was both lived through leading a team through an ongoing war and through a different chapter of my life. I want to share a bit of that with you. I don't often say it publicly. My own relationship with death, dying, and grief did not begin with this war. It began in 2006 when my father died, and it affected me deeply. And then in 2007, when I worked for the International Renaissance Foundation in Ukraine, during a season when palliative care was just beginning to develop as a field in our own country. I was drawn to it immediately, and I've never fully understood why, except that I have always been pulled toward the existential dimension of psychology, toward questions of meaning. What I learned in those early years has stayed with me ever since. People working in palliative care, nurses, doctors, chaplains, social workers, volunteers, carry an extraordinary kind of wisdom, maybe from their daily proximity to what is most fragile and most sacred about being alive. And years later in Singapore, I was privileged to work with the HCA Hospice Care, where we developed a mental health support program specifically for palliative care nurses. The people who care for others need care themselves. And I developed a workbook on communication in palliative care from that work, and I'll share how to access it at the end of this video if you are interested in this topic. So when I tell you this war and this work has changed me as a psychologist and as a human being, I mean it in the same register Elisabeth taught. I used to believe healing meant returning people to who they were before something hard happened. I no longer believe that. I believe healing means walking beside someone as they become someone new, rediscovering their own path and strength, and they become someone neither of us could have predicted, and someone that deserves both support and respect. Ken Ross, Elisabeth's son and president of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation, said something that has stayed with us for a long time. In her 100th year, the question we may want to ask isn't what was she like? Although, of course, Elisabeth was an extraordinary human being who made a lasting impact on the people she met and the industry itself. The better, harder question is, what would she ask of us now? We don't think she would ask of us to stop grieving. She spent her life insisting the opposite, that grief deserves to be fully felt, fully witnessed. At the soul, we humbly think, if she were watching Ukraine right now, she would ask a gentler, more curious question. What is growing in the dark, alongside the grief, not instead of it, beside it? And maybe she would add one more thing, simple and non-negotiable. Whatever else happens, we need to stay human. We believe Ukraine is learning and perhaps also teaching others something it never asked to learn, but urgently needs. How human beings can hold crisis and growth together at the very same time. And we believe that what we are learning here will outlast this war. So is there something, even small, growing in you alongside whatever you are still carrying? We'd love to know. And if this conversation touched you, please share it with someone in the middle of their own hard chapter right now. Someone who might need to hear that what is growing in them, quietly, in the dark, is real, deserves support, self-compassion, and dignity. None of this work happens without Elisabeth's own legacy still being carried forward every day by the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. If today's video moved you, we gently invite you to visit ekrfoundation.org to learn more about her life's work, her books, and about everything the foundation continues to do a century after her birth. Before we close, we'd love for you to sit with one more question. Where in your own life is the gold in your own break? Where has something in you been mended in a way that's now visible, not hidden, and is truly beautiful, just because it's you and your unique life story and journey? Dear Elisabeth, on your 100th birthday, from a small team of psychologists in a country at war, thank you. Thank you for teaching the world that grief deserves witnessing, not managing. Thank you for showing us that even death can be a stage of growth. Your work found us here, in Ukraine, at exactly the moment we needed it most. If anything in this series resonated with you, here is how we'd love to stay connected, very simply. If you'd like to support Ukrainian women through the soul, we would be very grateful. If you are navigating something hard yourself and would value counseling, we're here for you. And if you lead a team, an organization, or a community that could benefit from what we've learned about trauma, resilience, and post-traumatic growth, we'd be honored to bring a seminar, workshop, or talk to you. No pressure at all, just an open door, gently offered. To support our work, you may scan the QR code on the screen. It will take you to our website, ukrainiancircle.com.ua. And you may find many resources there about our work, starting from the Crisis Center in 2022, our group support sessions, and the Ukrainian Circle programs. You may also visit our YouTube channel for some videos in English about mental health, trauma healing, and resilience. And recently, we published an article in the peer-reviewed journal about transgenerational trauma and healing. Let us know if you would like to receive it. We would be happy to share. If this series has meant something to you, here is how you can be part of what comes next. The Soul works every week with Ukrainian women navigating exactly what we've described across this whole series. Scan the QR code on your screen to access all videos of the Circles of Compassion playlist. Drop us a message if you would like to receive a PDF companion for healing that we created within this project, or visit our website, ukrainiancircle.com.ua, to make a donation, join our community, or reach out for partnership. And as I mentioned earlier, if you work in palliative care, or you are simply drawn to this field, I'd love to share a resource with you, a workbook I developed on communication in palliative care, for anyone caring for the dying and for those who care for the caregivers. Scan the QR code on your screen to receive it. It's free, with my compliments. Thank you for being here, not just for this video, but for this entire series. We are the Soul, Ukrainian Psychology Center. Elisabeth's work is not finished, and neither is ours. Thank you, and see you in the next circle.